Hey everybody, Jason Blaha here with Ice Cream Fitness. Today I'm going to do a Q&A. I want to talk to you guys about healthy fats. I got a message on bodybuilding.com from a member asking me if I could do a video covering healthy fats because he gets annoyed when he has friends and other people mention that, yeah, you just need to get some healthy fats. And people don't generally understand what that means. And it's a very misused and overused term. Hold on, let me give you guys a couple bicep shots first then. And since I hit a 315 front squat for 4 reps yesterday as a PR, I'll go ahead and show my thighs off a little bit. Okay, on to the subject of healthy fats, fat balance, and what that means in your diet. And let's try to get around some of the misconceptions here. First of all, when it comes to truly unhealthy fats, the only fat that is truly unhealthy would be artificial trans fats. However, it's important to keep in mind that because nutritionists around the world and in the US and in Europe and other places have become aware of how detrimental this particular artificial food source can be, it's been phased out to a large extent. There's a lot of labeling, there's a lot of awareness on it, and it's just not as common as it was a decade ago. So it's not something you need to be overly concerned with other than just checking to see if it's in your food or not. And even then, it's important to keep in mind that it's only unhealthy with chronic intake. And while you should try to minimize it, preferably consume none of it, if you're only consuming a gram or two of it once or twice a week, you're unlikely to really suffer any health effects from that. It's not going to be problematic. Again, it's chronic intake you need to be concerned about. So what people oftentimes mean with this then is they're talking about basically eating peanut butter and other things and olive oil and avocados and avoiding saturated fat in this case. Well, the problem there is that saturated fat is neither a negative to your gains, nor is it really particularly unhealthy. And I would have to classify saturated fats in the category of healthy fats. And part of the problem there is that in the 1970s, it was first discovered that saturated fats and dietary cholesterol may be problematic for health by a man named Ansel Keys. You can do your own research on this. I don't really have time to cover that in this video, but do your own digging. It has been largely discredited and debunked, all of his work from the 1970s in the modern world of nutritional science. It's a bit of a mess that's still clinging around from an era when we still didn't understand nutrition or really have the tools available to analyze and study things. But for the most part, it's been debunked. We know today that saturated fat and dietary cholesterol have minimal to zero association with cardiovascular disease and other issues. It's not something you need to be concerned about unless you're consuming excessive amounts of it. But for generally people who aren't eating a large caloric surplus, they exercise, they train hard, they don't partake in other lifestyle factors that are a problem that increase the chance of developing these, like excessive drinking, smoking cigarettes, being sedentary, being obese. If this doesn't describe you, saturated fat really isn't a problem. You can consume a fair amount of it and really shouldn't be concerned about any negative health effects. And it has potential benefits to you from a performance perspective. Saturated fats are known in most research to have a better effect on boosting testosterone and other anabolic hormones in the body a little better than other fats do. So excluding it from your diet if you're a drug-free lifter isn't necessarily a wise idea. So this doesn't really need to be avoided. So what people are oftentimes meaning by healthy fats, and they're generally talking about either essential fatty acids or they're talking about what we would consider to be benign fats like monounsaturated or omega-9 fats, things that are found in olive oil and other things. Part of the problem with a lot of this is that no food contains just one of these. Most foods that contain any appreciable amount of fat contain a mixture of these things, and so It's not like you're going to get just one without the other. It's just that they occur in different ratios. Obviously, a steak doesn't have the same ratio of omega-3, omega-6, and monounsaturated and saturated fat that, say, a peanut does. But you're going to find all of those fats in them, just in different ratios, and sometimes vastly different ratios. So oftentimes they mean the monounsaturated. Other times people, and this is more often the case when they're saying get your good fats, they're talking about essential fatty acids, your N3 and N6, or omega-3 and omega-6 as they're called in layman's terms. Part of the issue with that is, while these things are very healthy, and by healthy meaning you'll die if you don't get them, they're essential fats, they're essential for life, they're essential for metabolic function. There are problems with getting too much. And generally, nobody in the Western world is deficient in omega-6, so really going out of your way to add more into your diet is just ridiculous. There's just no point. If you eat grains or you eat nuts at all every day, even small amounts of either one, there's absolutely zero chance that you're going to be deficient in either one of these. So it's not something you ever need to worry about. And as far as omega-3 goes, yes, you should be getting the superior forms of it, EPA and DHA, in your diet. But you can do that with just a small amount of fish every day, or supplementing a couple of fish oil caps every day. And the problem there is, just like with anything else, while it seems to have health benefits and other benefits that are vast, too much can be problematic. And so you see people with these mass fish oil dosing protocols and things. It actually turns out when you start hitting something like 10 grams or more of fish oil a day, you can actually compromise your immune system. It can actually reduce immune function. And so you really need to be concerned about that. Don't start mass dosing it. I generally wouldn't recommend over about 3 to 5 grams of standard fish oil a day. That's all you need to hit all of your optimal omega-3 needs. And anything beyond that isn't necessarily beneficial, and it's potentially compromising in terms of things like thinning your blood out too much, or potentially compromising your immune system. So it can actually be unhealthy. You don't want to do that. And the same can be said of people trying to mass load N6 fats. Like, they will eat tons and tons of peanut butter. And the issues there is that, yes, omega-6 is healthy in the sense that you need it to survive, but too much of it doesn't serve any benefit, and it can actually lead to dietary imbalances, in the sense that too much omega-6 can reduce the ability to absorb omega-3, so you develop a deficiency there. And the fact that because these two fats impact inflammatory and anti-inflammatory responses in the body, eating excessive amounts of omega-6 is actually quite bad for your health. It can contribute in the long term to things like heart attacks, strokes, arthritis, something you need to be concerned with. You don't want to just eat huge amounts of this stuff. And so it's the problem you see, just like with anything else, when anyone goes on an extreme diet, rather than trying to maintain some semblance of balance and changing their foods day to day to where they're eating half a jar of natural peanut butter every single day, 7 days a week, they're potentially setting themselves up for a dietary imbalance by eating way too much omega-6, more than they actually need, and it leading to health problems. And it's crazy, because I will see people do things like, when I look at their diets on forums, they will do things like eat 10 egg whites, throw the yolks away, and then replace the fat with peanut butter. And while that might look good in theory, they've actually thrown away a superior protein source for peanut protein for part of it, and they've taken a nice, wonderful saturated fat, like the egg yolks, that could be boosting their performance, boosting their hormone production slightly, and replacing it with more of an essential fatty acid, omega-6, that they don't actually need. If anything, they're potentially setting themselves up for a slightly higher chance of inflammatory issues. So they haven't really helped themselves by doing this. This person probably would have been better off just eating the egg yolks. It's about finding balance, and it's the same thing with these. I mean, you could eat large amounts of natural peanut butter once or twice a week and never develop this issue, because you're changing it up. And I would say, in general, if you want to eat healthy fats, go ahead and eat your red meat. Eat eat a few things like nuts and olive oil and whatever else, but you can enjoy pizza, ice cream, other foods high in saturated fat because it's beneficial to your gains. And if everything else is in balance, it's not even remotely unhealthy. There's no reason not to do that and eat a varied diet. Oftentimes, these dietary imbalances and fat imbalances and nutrient imbalances happen because people get fixated in a meal plan and wanting to eat the same foods day in, day out. And rather than changing things up, instead of going, well, I'm going to eat a lot of steak this day, pizza this day, and then maybe the third day I'll eat a bunch of peanut butter to get my fat. When they go, I'm going to eat natural peanut butter as my primary fat source 6 or 7 days a week, and they don't change things up and just eat a varied diet to ensure that they don't develop toxicities or deficiencies or anything based upon limited food selection or too much of the same foods, they're more likely to run into problems than if they had just changed it up day to day and just ate different things and hit their numbers, hit their macros, hit their calories without repeating the same foods over and over and over day after day. So that is the best way to get your healthy fats in. If you don't eat any fish, supplement fish oil in, eat a varied diet and try not to get your same sources of fat from the same foods every day. Don't be afraid of red meat, eggs, or cheese as long as they're in moderation. And as a general rule, fat takes a lower priority to other micronutrients when your goals are aesthetic and performance. Yes, you need them for hormone balance. Yes, you need them for health, but you don't need huge amounts of them. And I've put out in other videos, I've broken down for you how much fat you need. Try to hit those numbers, and there's not much benefit in going very far above that other than just filling calories into your diet. And I would advise that those calories would be better filled with carbohydrates for aesthetic or performance purposes than they would with additional dietary fat. So there's no real need for you to add a lot of fat into your diet other than if you're just eating foods that you happen to enjoy that are high in fat. There's no need for you to add it back in for the purposes of getting healthy fat in your diet, unless it's something very minor like a couple of fish oil caps every day. And that's all I have to say on that today. Let me give you guys another bicep shot. And I'll talk to you next time.